New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge, on the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Allie Benjamin, and it is my great joy to be here today. For those of you that are back, that are part of our regular viewers and listeners, I'm so glad that you're here. I know that today will be another wonderful experience for you. And for those of you that are here for the first time, I welcome you. Every week, we share a conversation with a soul-centered individual that channels their time, their talent, their energy, their love, their creativity into doing good work in the world and lifting humanity up to their highest potential. So today I am so happy to welcome back for the second time my friend, Dr. Rick Moss. Now, Rick has supported his clients with intuitively based healing for over 30 years. He has a PhD in education from the University of Texas at Austin, and he is a minister of religious science and the author of Drops of Wisdom, Guidance on the Path of Awakening. There's a lot more to Rick than all of that, and I'm really glad that you're here, Rick. Welcome to Growing Edge Live.
Oh, thank you, Allie. I am so looking forward to today. I love our conversations. I've known you for many years. It's a pleasure to be in your company.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I see that my husband, Michael, is already posting comments there. So he's welcoming you as well.
Thank you, Michael.
So let's check in. I shared a little bit about you, but for those that you are new to, what would you like to share about the work you do in the world and why you do it?
Well, for many years, I have had this intuitive ability to ask a question of guidance and get a response. At first, it was dramatic in my neck. Now I just sort of feel the response. And if nothing shows up that way, something drops into my mind and I get an image that seems to be very powerful for the work that I do. And what I do is help people find the limiting beliefs and the retained emotions that block our access to our best and highest self. And that best and highest self contains all the gifts that God has placed in us. And so it's about getting the blockages out of the way so that the beautiful, highlighted, God-created self can flow through. And I love what I do. I look forward to it every time.
Well, I'm glad that you do the work you do. I have personally benefited from it for months of sessions with you when I've been in a place of struggle. And I've also been witness to you in offering workshops and working with groups. And it's really powerful. People have a real love for you and the work you do. You're able to, with your energy, your wisdom, your love, to sort of pierce through any kind of concerns that people might have maybe even unconsciously of being vulnerable, of sharing what's the matter, and be able to communicate with you their issues. And you, as such an intuitive person, are able to meet them there and help facilitate a healing for them. And in witnessing you working with another, it just seems like the whole room of people seem to have some sort of clearing or activation, or it affects everyone in the room. And so I love working one-on-one with you, but I really, really love seeing the dynamics of you doing your work within a group setting. So thank you for...
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Ali.
Yeah, so you talk about awakening, and you talk about self-love and love being the healing essence.
Yeah.
So how can you best describe what is the true self?
We have an egoic self. We have a personality that has been built up through this whole lifetime. And if you accept the possibility of past lives, there may be influences from past lives in it as well. These egoic experiences are all about, what do I get? What's in it for me? It's all around I. And that's a very essential part of ourselves. We can't be on the planet without an ego. Even the great masters, they have an ego. So it's an essential part of who we are. What I've learned over these years is that judging it, beating it up, hiding it in the unconscious doesn't work, but loving it does, because love and presence are God energies. So when we extend them to ourselves, the divinity works in us, through us, as us. And that's the trick. And that's why today we're talking about self-love, totally different from what the ego does. The ego's version of love is, what do I get from it? And so we might say, I love chocolate cake. Well, we give nothing to chocolate cake, but we take pleasure from it. That isn't the real love. The real love comes from this connection to spirit, to source. And at some point, I'll talk about love in more depth, and offer us an experience of it. But it's really love, and then to be present with ourselves, because God is presence, God is love. So when we're in presence and in love, God gets to work us.
I love that. And I love that we'll actually, in the second part of our conversation today, we will have an experience, and
Yes.
you'll guide people through an experience of what you're talking about. When you were talking about our ego personality structure is, wants something, I also thought of when two people are in sort of a surface egoic kind of love relationship, it's both very outward, it's what do I want and what can I give, and when a relationship is structured on giving and taking, that's a different kind of love. I mean, we can say that love is baking someone a chocolate cake, or giving them a massage, or sending them a love note, or doing something sweet, or expecting those things. That is very superficial, pleasureful activity. But I think the love that you're talking about, this divine love or essential love, is more than the ego's idea of what love is.
Well, as you're saying that, what's coming to mind is baking someone a cake or giving someone a massage can be the expression of divine love. It all depends on what's the motivation. If it's an egoic motivation, it's what am I going to get for doing this? If it's a motivation from spirit, it's my joy in doing this, and the actual doing fills me with delight. So it's very different.
And I can see that it's easy to fall into patterns of that egoic kind of transactional love almost.
Yes.
And so it leads me to the idea that one has to really have a level of connection with themselves, with God, with quiet, in order to kind of, move out of that transactional idea of love, to slow down enough to realize that there's this flow of love, this energetic of love that's available. It's always available, but we're not always able to sense it or presence it because we're so in the mind and in our, our habits and traits, and
or in our heads,
and so it gets confused for the the spiritual being having a human experience, and knowing the tremendous healing that happens when we can feel love, that divine love. But yet people are so busy, people are stressed out, people are working, people, trying to please people in their lives. And so it can be very distracting, I would imagine, especially for younger people that have kids, and to try and to find that presence, that peace, that quiet, to fill their own well with this kind of love energy.
True. Very well put.
Yeah. So I'm just sensing it in my own world, how I can slip, after a meditation or after a deep conversation with someone that, of like mind or like heart. It's easy to feel this, but in the hubbub, in the phenomenal world, in the doing, in the, the speed of life, especially with things going on in the world as they are at the moment. What would you say to people that are consumed with what's going on globally, or overwhelmed with family situations, or that like what they're hearing here, but can you give them some simple ideas of how to cultivate that quieter, deeper connection with God, with love?
It's a great question. What's coming to mind as you phrase it is the importance of self-love, of giving ourselves that presence and accepting whatever it is we're feeling, rather than trying to change it out of judgment, but to embrace it. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling traumatized by this, but to embrace the fact that I'm aware I'm feeling this, and I'm also going to hold compassion and love for myself, because that is self-love, is accepting rather than judging whatever is coming up for us. It's the judgment that pulls us into the ego, and it's the self-love that takes us into the spiritual self.
I was having a conversation recently about this, but a little differently, and I was thinking of some of the Buddhist teachings of the middle way, and that we can fall into craving or yearnings, or physical, clinging to certain ideas or dreams or hopes or wishes, and then the aversion to things. And so what I think I hear you saying is that, as long as we're having opinions, maybe trying to get somewhere, gain something, or push something away, that is part of the human condition. And it's hard to untangle ourselves from wanting certain things or trying to avoid certain things. But it's in that softening the edges of that, maybe, and just being more of a witness. You know, I see myself wanting certain things. I see myself avoiding certain things. But this self-love seems to sit in the middle of that, those cravings or those aversions. And it's right there when we're not wrapped up in those two aspects of our humanness, maybe.
That self-love, and it would be useful to put a little frame around it in talking about self-love by saying how we feel about ourselves colors everything else.
Mm.
And then we project those feelings, both conscious and subconscious, on the world around us and everyone that we interact with. And then the world, which is a mirror, reflects that back to us.
Mm.
So as we start to love ourselves more, and we'll go into that more, I'm sure, today, as we start to love ourselves more deeply, we start to experience a different world where love is being reflected back. And when we're in judgment and anger or shame, that is reflected back more to us. So the more we deepen that experience of self-love, the more we see a different world.
Mm.
There's a very sweet story. Can I share it?
Yeah, I would love to hear.
So there's this, I think it's an Indian story, a teaching story. This man is walking down the road and he sees this guru sitting under a tree. And he says to the guru, "So what are the people like down the road?" And the guru says, "What were the people like where you were?" And the guy says, "Oh, terrible people. They were cheating. They were robbing. They were miserable people." And the guru says, well, that's what you're going to find down the road. And that's because he's seeing himself, aspects of himself reflected back by people. But as we fall into that love, we experience the world differently. There's such a sweet Jewish expression, and it goes, when you're in love, the whole world is Jewish. When you're in love, that's what you see around you, not the challenge, not the judgment, not the prejudice. The love is reflected back.
Mm. So you've worked with thousands of people that have opened up their lives to you, in, I would imagine, so that you know where you need to go with them, and they've shared their issues. And so can you share a little bit, give us some examples of what people struggle with and how they mirror that back out into their relationship?
Absolutely. So where to jump in? That's a great question. I have to start a little more generally by saying that what we have experienced in the past lives in our body, lives in our unconscious. If it goes all the way back to in utero, if our mom didn't want us or was thinking about abortion, that's in that child's psyche, even though the child is totally unaware of feeling unloved at that moment. But it starts to shape the psyche. Now, the beautiful thing is whatever we've taken in life experience, it exists in the subconscious, which is 95% of our equipment, as if it were happening now. So if we were judged a lot by a parent, if a parent left, what we have in the unconscious is not I wasn't loved, but I am not loved. That's why it's so powerful. That's why you can't say it happened 20, 30, 40, 60 years ago, get over it, because there's no getting over what feels like it's happening now in the body mind. The upside of this, because it's all happening now, we can enter in and we can bring the love to that hurt part of ourselves, say a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old that felt so loved, unloved at the time. We can enter in as love, as the higher self, as the loving adult. And we can give to that child memory moment the love that he or she didn't get at the time, but is desperately looking for. And we can give it to that in such a way that it becomes more important, that love experience in the present, than the memory of not being loved in the past. However, there's a catch, because there are many moments from the past. It can't be just done in one swell foop, as my father used to say. It needs repetition. We need to come back in there with love time and time again, meeting whatever is coming up, not with judgment, but with love. And that, I think, is the key. And that's why I think people really need to learn to do this for themselves. Yes, they can get a great push off by someone, or working with me, or working with you, but they have to learn how to love themselves. There's a beautiful book called How to Be an Adult in Relationship by David Rico. I love it. I recommend it. And in this book, he talks about the 5 A's of love: attention, affection, appreciation, acceptance, and allowing. These 5 A's. The key in a relationship, excuse me, that is a loving relationship, is being able to extend these 5 A's to your partner. But the key in self-love is being able to extend these 5 A's to yourself, giving yourself the attention. Well, as I said, you're going to have to love yourself with this attention, not just once, but many times, if you want to undo the past and live in the present moment. Giving yourself the affection. So when you're stumbling, as we all do, you're just holding the affection. Yeah, you made a mistake. I love you anyway. It's okay. Appreciating ourselves for the gifts that God has put in us, appreciating God for putting them in us, in our higher self. And then it comes down to acceptance, accepting ourselves as we are. That's really tricky, because society keeps telling us we have to judge ourselves. I think, and great teachers have said, that it's not just that judgment, it's really accepting ourselves as we find ourselves in the moment, and offering those 5 A's, that love. Because what happens when we're in judgment is that we can't love ourselves. We can't both judge and love at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. So learning to accept what's there and love it gets to change it. And then there's the allowing the self to unfold as it's designed to unfold, even when the ego thinks, hey, I shouldn't be going through this. This isn't right. Well, I believe that whatever the challenge that we're faced with, it's perfect. It's exactly what God is putting in our path to help us grow. And so allowing ourselves to embrace the challenge, not judging yourself or pushing the challenge away. I think those are elements of self-love that are really important.
Yeah, I would love it if maybe our producer could put the name of that book in the chat notes. So could you say the name of that book again?
How to Be an Adult in Relationships.
Okay, great. Thank you.
David Richo, Richo, I believe.
Now, someone has dropped a question. What is the relationship between addiction and self-love? And as you were sharing some of those A's, I was thinking of, that person could take those 3 A's and start to apply them to this, if it's their situation or someone in their life, as a tool to gain clarity over that. But I'd love to hear what you would say about what's the relationship between addiction and self-love. Sounds like it's kind of gone askew, trying to give themselves something, but
I think that what we're all craving for is love. That's what we're all looking for. It's the most powerful force in the universe. God is love. That's it. So we're all yearning for this love. And I think addiction is often because we're not experiencing the love that we so need. And we have to start with self-love. There's a great quote about addiction as to why we get stuck on certain things. And that is that you can't get enough of what you really don't want. You just think you want the alcohol. You just think you want shopping. You just think you want the food. You think your body is craving it because you've taught it somehow that maybe this is going to do it. But it never does. That's why I think Carl Jung, who is really a force behind the Addicts Anonymous, AA, had a patient, and the patient, an American patient, wasn't healing with Jung's therapy. And Jung said, this isn't going to work. You need to go home and have a spiritual experience, a religious experience. And he did go home and he did have that experience, and it changed his relationship with alcohol. And that is one of the key elements of where AA got created from. That spiritual experience is God's love, and we can deliver that to ourselves. And we're going to do that later on too.
We are. We're going to take a really short break for a minute or two, and we'll be back. And I'd love it if you would share about your process before we actually do it.
Cool.
Okay. See you in a moment.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Welcome to the Convention of the Americas 2025, Rising Together. Join us for a truly bilingual retreat experience on the shores of the beautiful Lake Chapala, Mexico. July 22nd through July 26th, 2025, at the Hotel Villa Monte Carlo in Jalisco, Mexico. Featuring Reverend Jeffrey Ryan, Dr. Jose de Lira Sosa, Reverend Dr. Kathy Ann Lewis, Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse, and Reverend Dr. David Bruner. Registration is now open, and payment plans are available. Simply visit www.conventionoftheamericas.com. Come be part of a transformative gathering with powerful presentations, workshops, networking time, and just good old relaxing and connecting. Plus, you can learn more about the science of mind and how to live this powerful philosophy in your life. Transform your life at Convention of the Americas, 2025. Rising Together.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
We're back. Welcome back, Rick. Welcome back, everyone. So I have a question. I know there's a lot of people that when they're struggling, they seek help. They seek to, talk to a therapist or come to someone like you or me or a practitioner, or body worker, energy worker. There's lots of ways we try and relieve our suffering, our struggles. And there's something that I've heard people struggle with that are in positions or roles like you and I are, and that clients have a tendency to want to talk a lot about what's going on. How do you balance your clients wanting to talk about their troubles or share their story and actually getting to the fabulous work that you do? Because I've heard from some of my colleagues that, I wish people would, I want to just get to the healing part. But there's such a need for people to share, to speak about it. What do you have to say about that?
My wonderful and beautiful wife is a therapist. And in her perspective, the discharge of the story, when met by a loving therapist, is very powerful in transformation. It's very different from the way I work. Robin's work is spectacular. She's wonderful. But I'm very different in that I will take the information. I want to know, what was it like? Did you feel loved by your mom? Did you feel loved by your dad? Was there abuse? Was there neglect? Was there fighting between the parents? Because the first 7 years of life are so important, because the child has a narcissistic perspective on the world. Everything that happens to her or him is interpreted as being about me. So if a parent was cruel, harsh, withholding, it's not that they were incapable of loving, it's that I am not lovable. And then that gets put in the unconscious because it's too painful to really live with that. So we'll suppress it, we'll push it down, and we'll come with strategies. Oh, but if I give this, or make chocolate cake, like you said. That works for me, but that's not so much. If I can just avoid those feelings, I'll be fine. Well, talking about them is important because we have to find out what was stored in the unconscious. But then it's not going to change anything until you bring the love to that part of the unconscious. Now, Robin does that by holding this space of love for the client or them to speak into and by insights. But I have this gift where I can find what is the limiting belief in the unconscious. And the thing about emotions is they make limiting beliefs feel true.
Mm.
So if we can start cleaning out the emotions, then the limiting belief starts shrinking and can be more easily dealt with. So I use a lot of visualization techniques to clean out emotion that's stuck in the system, because the subconscious is not very good at distinguishing between real and imagined. So we can use the mind to heal the mind in this way.
Mm.
So I need to find out what went on, where was the illusion, what happened in childhood, and then I need to ask guidance. So do you want me to work here? Do you want me to work there? Do we have to start here? Do I need to teach this person to do it for themselves because there's a lot of stuff here because that was really rough? Or can I facilitate them and encourage them? I have a website, because you can't come to a healer, a therapist, a minister 24/7. You have to do the work for yourselves. So I have a website called essentialpathways.com. Ta-da! Well done. Where you can actually go on the website and my voice will lead you through the clearings and the visualizations. And there are pathways like the love pathways or power, these kind of pathways where we'll deal with these issues and you can use it over and over again. And also for free on the website or something called Inner Oracle Cards. And I came up with this idea of how to do these clearings through cards. And I told my son about it. And Daniel is a brilliant person and figured out how to create this idea online. So synchronicity, which is that Jungian idea, enters in and it can tell you you pick an issue card and then it tells you what's the negative tendency about that issue that's influencing your life. And you may not even have noticed that before. Mm. And then you get to find affirmations that work to clear away that limiting belief. And it goes on and on. It's just a wonderful way for guidance to tell you what's up and what you need to work on, and people can do it for free.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that so generously with all of us.
It's a pleasure.
What are the typical trapped or blocked, stuck emotions that people may not be aware of?
It's all my fault. I'm not good enough to be loved. Those are key illusions in the subconscious. When we go to deal with the inner child moment that we're dealing with, and we bring that love to the inner child, what we're going to teach that child is that good enough has nothing to do with love. It's unconditional, which means no demand, no expectation. There we go. Thank you.
There's your website on the screen for those that are listening. You can't see it, but again, it's Essential Pathways, correct?
Yes, thank you for doing that. That's fun. So we need to bring the experience of love to be an antidote for that which is not love. And in order to do the healing, we have to know ourselves to love ourselves, which means there's all that stuff that we didn't want to know about ourselves because we failed. We weren't good enough. We're not pretty enough. We're not handsome enough. Oh, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff needs to be brought to the light of love. And then unconditional love, the becoming the channel of God's love to a place in ourselves that's stuck in the past, just clears it out. And that child, that inner child moment that we're working with, gets to experience over and over and over again in a clearing in the work that I do. They can do anything and still be loved. But the key is that the person is feeling it for the child. And then the child knows that it's true because that person is feeling it, and the child and the adult are sharing their emotions, and it becomes true. You love me even if I knock over the milk. You love me even if I'm not good enough at school. You love me even if I get B's. You love me if I did blah, blah, blah. But the experience over and over again of being loved no matter what.
What an amazing realization to have, that you can actually do this for yourself. This is something that you can heal with help to understand this, but that it's something that it's right here if you give yourself the time and the attention. And we've got lots of people making little comments. What is time like for the subconscious, says Benjamin.
Thank you, Benjamin, a beautiful person. I know Benjamin very well. What is time like? There is no time in the subconscious. Everything is now.
That's why this works.
That's why this works. That's why love in the now is more powerful than abandonment in the past. Oh, I don't think I've ever said that before, but I really like that. Love in the now is more powerful than abandonment in the past. Whew.
Yeah, I like that. But you're speaking straight to my wound, which is abandonment. So I can really feel that. I'm excited to have an experience of this. Beautiful.
Let's do it.
Should we do it?
Yay.
Okay.
Cool.
So will you get people all settled
I will.
up?
I'm going to start with a little opening prayer. I am going to use the word God. If that word doesn't work for you, just put in whatever word you like spirit.
Okay.
All healing we do in the name of God's love. We give thanks for this opportunity to release the binding influence of the past. We call on God and invite the presence of all that is healing and nurturing and transformative to facilitate this healing for all who are listening and beyond. So be it. All right. So we're going to imagine that there's some part of ourselves that wasn't good at something, that didn't feel like they were as lovable as their siblings, or they weren't good at school, or they weren't good at sports. And we're going to start with a young child here. So it could be really before school. The feeling I get is to work with about a 5-year-old. And you may not remember much. When I work with people, they don't quite remember what was happening, but it doesn't really matter too much because this is going to work no matter what. So I'd like you to imagine that there is this child part of ourselves, maybe about 5 years of age. And this child is carrying a sadness, a hurt, a rejection, a sorrow, a grief. The key is to imagine that you are seeing the child rather than being the child. It's very easy to fall into the child's emotions and lose the God energy of unconditional love. But we want to step out of the child so that we can receive that flow of God energy as love. And it's really easy for some people to work with an inner child. For some people, it's hard to find the love. And for some people, it's easier with their pet. But imagine a feeling of absolute love for your pet, or as you look at that little child that you were from that loving adult part of you, can you find a smile? A smile awakens. And as you look at that beautiful little child with that smile, can you find a feeling of caring in your heart for that child? So let that grow. Now imagine going to that child and saying to that child, I have come to look out for you, to be on your side, to love you 24/7. It was never your mother or father or stepfather or this person or that person's job to love you 24/7. They can't. But I can, you tell the child, because I am you grown up. I am your higher self. And I have come to love and protect you. Now, we want to start slowly because we have to take the child's resistance into account and not push anything on her or him. So we say to the child, could I sit next to you? And we just feel into the level of acceptance or resistance. In some cases, the child just wants to jump in your arms and be held and feel safe and loved. In some cases, the child says no. And then we'll say, all right, do you want me, the loving adult, to stand by the door? And the child may say yes. And then we may have to work this for a while until we can bring the loving adult and the child together. So whatever is happening, imagine that we've done that. And we're bringing the loving adult, the God energy in you, the divine in you as love, together with that hurt part. And if you can hold that child, say to the child, I'm here now. And I'm going to love you. And I'm not going to abandon you. I can't, because I am you. I'm just you grown up. I'm your best self. So I'm right here. I'm never going to go away. Now, a number of people have had scary experiences growing up, felt very threatened. So this is what I do. And if it relates to your experience, great. And if it doesn't, it can't hurt at all. Feel your higher self love for the child. Slowly. And now do this. Imagine that you can multiply your higher self by 20 times. So you have 20 loving adults surrounding that child, holding hands, making a circle, with you in the center of the circle, holding the hand of that child that felt threatened. And you're holding that child or holding it in your arms, and you're saying, I'm here. And these 20 loving adults are going to surround you with love. So if anyone were to step into that circle with an intent to be unloving or abusive, the love would be so strong, it'd be 20-1 against them, that they would just turn around and walk out of that circle, leaving you safe, you say to the child. So just imagine that circle of love, loving and protecting that child. And don't forget, that child is you. And you are loving yourself. And you are experiencing a beautiful form of self-love right now. not judging the child, hopefully at this moment, just surrounding, embracing her or him with your love. Now, if the parents can be nice and loving, they can come into the circle. If they can't, the circle stays there, and you grow up that child day after week after month with safety and protection and love. Imagine that child growing up year after year with love and safety and respect and protection, how they would change. Maybe that child is 10 now. The trick here is not what you were like at 10, but what is this child like at 10? Having been loved nonstop and protected and looked after. Keep imagining growing that child up. That child's going to have a different life experience than you, because this child is a different facet of the jewel, of the diamond that is your true self. Imagine this child at 15, relationships would be different. Imagine this child at 20, if addiction was starting to build up or overshadow, I think you would find that it isn't happening to this child, that the love and the safety and the permission to grow and to be their best self is fulfilling. This child is going to have totally different relationships, because this is a facet of you that you're bringing into the world. And just honor the beauty of these relationships. Doesn't mean that you're not doing exactly what you need to be doing in your life. It means that you are now loving yourself to bring a potential into your life that hadn't been made manifest before. Love, divine presence, God presence is doing this. It is awakening part of you that has slumbered, and it's awakening it to its nature as love. Just feel like what this person might be like at 40 or 50. Can you feel the radiance of this person? That is you. That is you in self-love. That is you expressing your divine nature into the world. And that's where we're going to stop on this particular clearing. So I'm going to say, we ask that this healing be integrated through all time, space, dimensions, and interdimensions, throughout the hologram of life and existence. And so it is.
And so it is. Beautiful.
That felt really good.
Yeah, that did. That was amazing. To be able to, through your guidance, to be able to cultivate this presence of your, diamond self or essential self.
Yes.
To be able to sort of inhabit, like occupy that sovereign, magnificent self is such
expression.
Yeah, such a radiant experience. And thank you. Thank you very much for that.
What a thrill.
Yeah, I can see that as we could talk and talk and talk about.
I would love to.
Talk about this, because it's so pivotal to be able to be our awakened, loving self. Like that doesn't seem, the ego doesn't seem to understand that this is the way to experience freedom. And we get trapped in thinking there's something I'm missing, or there's someone that's not behaving the way I want them to, or there's, fill in the blank. And it's
one idea. How much time do we have left?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Can I have 2 minutes?
Yes. and then we'll have to
I'll try to do it in a minute and a half.
Okay.
Think of the 5 A's: attention, affection, appreciation, acceptance, and allowing as just doorways. Now, when they're open, just imagine that the God energy of love, which cannot be described, is now flowing through the open doorways into the world.
That we're the channel for that.
And we have to open the doors so it can
Right.
shine in. Otherwise, the doors are closed and the light can't come into the world.
Beautiful. Well, Rick, what would you like to, one sentence or two, what would you like to share with our viewers and listeners today in regards to self-love?
The self is the love that we seek because it's divine. It's God in us, as us.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
It was so much fun, and I look forward to connecting with you. And why don't you share a little bit about how people can get in touch with you, what you're offering at the moment? I know it's all on your website.
It is. They can go there. My phone number is there. They can call to do sessions. The sessions are what I love doing, and they run about 45 minutes, and they're very powerful. They really change lives.
Yeah. Thank you for the healing work that you're doing. And thank you for being here today to share your light. I love you. And to everyone that's been here with us, thank you so much for being here. I trust and know that this experience will continue to bless you and awaken self-love and awaken a greater longing or knowing of that love within yourself. So I will see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to New Thought Media Network for producing this show. And if you ever need a dose of love, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm here and I love you, and Dr. Rick loves you, and peace and blessings. Namaste. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing